Welcome to the Passionpreneur Podcast. This is the show where every week we teach you how to make a living doing what you love and how to get paid for what you know by building passion-driven revenue streams. I am your host, Ryan C. Greene. You can follow me on all social media at Raji Speaks. If you're an entrepreneur, a leader in your field, a dreamer who needs help putting it all together, or simply aspire to be more in life than you have been, this is the show for you. If you haven't done so already, make sure you click the follow and subscribe button on whatever podcast player you're listening to us on right now. And don't forget that we are on iTunes, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, all those podcast players. So follow us, leave a comment if you can, share the episode with your friends. Don't keep all this to yourself. Help your circle grow with you. And as usual, just for listening to today's show, if you're ready to begin your journey on becoming a passionpreneur, I want to give you my book, Becoming a Passionpreneur. That's right. For a limited time, it's you can get the entire book, which has all the secrets and steps to reignite your fire within and start getting paid for what you know. I want to give it to you for free. If you want the free copy of your book, simply text the word book to 614-333-0338, or you can go to passionpreneurbook.com and you will receive a link and you'll see how to go ahead and get your copy right away. So definitely take advantage of that. I am excited. We're going to jump right into our guest today. I'm excited because we have an exciting young man, an author. He does much more. He's a new author, but he does so much more than that. So I want to introduce Matt Zinman. Matt Zinman is a personal success trainer whose experiences as an entrepreneur, athlete, single parent, caretaker, and nonprofit founder drive him to be a difference maker. This led him to author Z-isms, Insights to Live By, with a goal to positively impact as many people as possible. In addition, Matt is the CEO of the Internship Institute, which he established to make experiences matter. Matt Zinman, welcome to the show.
Hey Ryan, it's great to be with you. I love that entry music. It was like got me uplifted right away.
Absolutely,
like ready to go.
Thank you. That's what we're all about, getting people, get the energy going, get everyone ready to get some great information. So awesome. Matt, thank you for joining us. And, when we connected and I saw information about what you were doing, I was excited to learn more, excited to get you on the show and share your message and your mission with our audience. So I want to go ahead and I gave you a quick intro, but I want you to go ahead and tell the people who you are and what it is that you do.
Great, thank you. So, you gave me such a kind introduction. I really appreciate that. It kind of covers the, span of some life and some career. Call me a single parent. I am remarried now. My lovely wife, Erica. We have 2 kids.
Awesome.
No longer kids. A teenage daughter, 15, and my son, Jake, is 19. So he just started school. So I'm in that college parent mode. That's a whole new world for those of you who know it. And, the past 15 years, I've been running the nonprofit, the Internship Institute, which is also apprenticeships and anything for work experience, and working mainly with employers to set these programs up so that they're high quality, they stay in place, and that they're great experiences for everybody who goes through them. And then for some time now, I've been wanting to write this book, and Z-isms, Insights to Live By is a personal development book. It covers areas around self-discovery and mindset, and then personal interactions and relationships. And then we get into things around mindfulness, like swimming with the current and making coincidences matter and the law of attraction. But the main thing is I want the reader to come away with some kind of a life enrichment action plan, to make it practical and something they can put to use for themselves.
Awesome. Now we want to jump into the book. I want to go ahead. We're going to go through some of the things that you're sharing, because I think that from what I've seen, this is good. And I've been in the publishing industry, in the book marketing field for 15 years, and you see so many things come and go. And you see so many different kind of books. You see so many topics that authors that focus on the same thing, but when I saw this book, I saw a difference. I saw things in this that I was like, okay, this is different. This is on a different level. This is some experience to put into this and some insight. So we want to go through and really share as much as we can in the short time that we have about what you're
Sure.
doing and how you're impacting people, the readers. And then hopefully we'll get people to go ahead and follow you and pick up their own copies of the book. But let's just start with the obvious question. The book is called Z-isms. So tell us exactly, what is a Z-ism?
Right. So a Z-ism is pretty much what that subtitle is. They're insights to live by. It's true with my last name. I do have an affection for the Z or the Z, depending on what part of the world you're listening here. And we're really talking about things that everyone has through their life experiences, things that may have been passed on to them, those pearls of wisdom and whatnot that they like to share. But this isn't like a book of quips or quotes or anything. It's a full-fledged book. And thank you so much for your kind words. I very much appreciate that.
All right, no problem. Absolutely. So talk to us about, now you said you started with a nonprofit, and we'll get into that a little bit later as well, but you were doing
Sure.
work already. You were doing work helping people. What was it that made you decide to write an actual book, and especially a personal development book?
Well, it's certainly a combination of things. One, getting to my early 50s here, and part of where the book itself elevates to is defining your why, and some self reflection about what would I regret not doing, for one, and that made the book rise to the top. It's something I've been wanting to do for at least 15 years, and it's based on the cross section of experiences and things that you're talking about, and some concepts that we'll get into, I guess, here in a minute or two,
Mm-hmm.
that I felt were somewhat unique to my perspectives, and I just have a constant desire to make as much of an impact as possible, and that's certainly a lot of it. And I would say that through working with the businesses and all the college students and even veterans in transition, there's just a lot of things that particularly the students aren't really quite ready to have had the exposure and experience. So some of it's about what I wish my younger self knew in some respects, at least at the front end of the book, for sure.
It's funny you said that part, because that was actually the same inspiration for my first book. Was, what would I tell people? What do I wish I would have known before I started messing stuff up myself? But so that's
Right.
that's
Yeah,
a great place
really,
to
it's
start.
basically based on lots of mistakes, pain, and suffering. I mean,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
So
absolutely.
try and prevent everybody from doing that. No, for sure.
Absolutely. Now, you talk, one of the central focuses of the book is the concept of earned confidence. So share more with us about that and how it can help people in their daily lives.
Yeah, absolutely. Earned confidence is chapter one for a reason, and it really provides that foundation as things build on one another. It's referred to throughout the book. And really what we're talking about is, again, how we've all been through whatever we have in our lives, young or otherwise, and, we're still standing. We're right here. And it's a very important reminder that we don't really need to worry. We don't need to be anxious or stress or have the negativity or make assumptions, for that matter, when we're fully capable, having proven to ourselves that we can just deal with things in real time. So just take it as it comes, and as if we have a choice anyway. And it's really important just to stay grounded and focus on gratitude and things like that really enrich your life, and that can only happen in the present moment.
Wow. And that kind of goes into you had a theme about filters, talk a lot about that, and how that impacts how we experience the world. So what was it about filters, or what does that involve, and how does that kind of go throughout the book?
Sure. Well, we all have so much going on at all times in our lives, and it's a lot of moving parts. And so earned confidence would be one example of that, particularly in the comment about staying in the present as opposed to being off, caught up in worry and things. Then you've got something like mood health, which is very important, especially as everyone, at least at this point in time, we're kind of out of our structure
Mm-hmm.
to a certain degree. And I think we're more susceptible to maybe feeling down and kind of trying to find our way. So one filter is, well, you're going to experience life and have very, very different perspectives through one lens of optimism and another through pessimism, even worse, depression. So mood health is certainly very important. And then there's actually perception itself. And I think it's easy for us to forget that on any given day, in any given moment or conversation, we're taking in this constant flow of information, and we assume that it's the truth when it really is only an interpretation. So it's important from that understanding to give ourselves the benefit of the doubt, maybe so we're not beating ourselves up, which is not a good idea to begin with, right? Why be anything other than kind to yourself is kind of one of those principles of earned confidence, but also giving others the benefit of the doubt too. So if you're in a conversation, let's say, as opposed to a conflict, and both people think that they're right about the same thing, it doesn't necessarily mean either one of you are wrong. But at the same time, just give each other the benefit of the doubt and make a choice in the moment, rather than letting things escalate into that unwanted aftermath. Just to kind of be more accepting of one another in that way.
That rings out to me because I know when I have discussions with people that turn into disagreements, especially in the age of social media where where everything is text and it's hard to get tone from people. It's hard to interpret sarcasm from people. It's hard to tell what's serious and what's not sometimes. I think that, I always ask myself, well, not myself, but I ask others as well, why do we always seem to lean towards someone must have had negative intentions, that they must have had the bad intention of our interpretation, as opposed to giving, like you said, giving them the benefit of the doubt that maybe I just read into it wrong. Maybe they didn't mean the negative side. Maybe there was something more to this. So that's so important, and I think that's good stuff right there. When you're dealing with someone who you may disagree, like you said, doesn't mean either of you are wrong, but you kind of got to look at that perception of asking yourself why am I not? I would internalize, why am I thinking this person must be doing something for a negative reason as opposed to a positive reason? So that's good stuff.
Right.
So
yeah, for sure. I mean, it's well said there. And the thought and what you're talking about also has a lot to do with trying to draw on that patience, that poise, and even compassion, because maybe somebody's not being their better self at a particular time. And, maybe it's something that you're still taking it personally when they're just having a bad day, or they're just kind of off balance themselves for whatever reason. And it's just kind of stepping back and shields up. There is a lot of conversation about, and the book's written like a personal conversation with the reader about that energy transfer that occurs. That we kind of what you're describing, Ryan. And so with earned confidence, for example, and you're off worrying, and so babies are not born worriers, right? So this is a learned trait. And so we might not even realize it. It's in our subconscious. But what we also do when we worry unnecessarily is we might start talking to people about it. And there's that energy transfer of that negativity that's, again, completely unnecessary. So what you have to do is catch yourself after the fact and be like, oh, that thing I worried about never happened. So what did I do to myself, right? What did I do to everybody I spoke to? Because that was all for naught. And that's a really steady reminder to get yourself the next time, so you kind of stay grounded and not get carried away with things that haven't happened yet, that aren't certain to happen.
Right. And especially in the times we're living in right now, that's so important to make sure that you are interpreting things properly, that you're not giving yourself a false perception of what's going on. But I want to go on to one of the things that I saw in the book that jumped out to me, and no pun intended, because I absolutely hate spiders. I hate spiders.
I know where you're going.
Yeah,
I know where you're going. Yeah.
It's the one bug that, it frightens me. I don't like spiders. And you have a chapter in the book that you talk about that involves being aware of spiders. And you're not talking about literal spiders, but let's talk about
No, we're
that.
not. We're not. No, no arachnid fears
Right.
here to reinforce. No, but I'm not a big fan of spiders. Although my wife, I am the one that has to take care of that.
Me
No,
too.
it's a
Me too.
metaphor in the book, and right, you still have to do that. That again, going back to there being a lot of moving parts, and it's hard for us to, make sense of ourselves at any given time, let alone other people. And we have to look for those kinds of things that are the this or that in terms of trying to understand the encounters that we have and those interactions, and also taking care of ourselves. Again, from what we just talked about with those energy exchanges that occur between people. And so when we talk about be aware of spiders, we're talking about manipulators. So it's the fact that there really are only two kinds of people in the world. There are spiders, and there are people who get caught in webs. And the reason why it's a this or a that is because that's a conscious decision somebody makes. If you're manipulating somebody, right, you're applying conscious will to make someone else bend to it for whatever reason. And it doesn't necessarily make somebody a bad person. It could, and I do certainly think it's the vast. That's a minority of the population. It's not something necessarily anybody does more than 1% of the time. Like maybe they're in the office and it's a political environment and they have to kind of be that way just to navigate. But if you're somebody who does that, that also means that you can make that decision to impose your will on others. And so the rest of us, rather than fall prey, need to kind of be aware. And so what I found, you start laughing about this, but what I found, you never know, like after the book comes out, people really seem to kind of like, oh, I know the spiders in my life.
Right.
And, right. So it's like, the bell goes off. So it's just really important. Just, things like, if you have trouble saying no, if you're like, I really need to say no more often, that's an indication of the fact that there are spiders that are taking advantage of you. So just say no, right? Because the worst part is you then do that thing and you feel terrible about it, which is that double whammy. And you just have to stand up for yourself, and then that person will respect you and those boundaries so that they're not, they're not catching you in that web.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a quote, I cannot remember who said it, but I said, no is a complete sentence, and no is a complete sentence. and,
Right. I like that.
We've got to,
I like that.
I wish I could remember who said it so I could attribute to them, but, that's, we've got to get, that's a freedom. There's a freedom in just being able to say no. You don't have to offer any explanation, and just stand on that no and feel good about, hey, listen, I said no, and that's it. So there's a thing about that is so important. So great.
It's self-respect, really.
Absolutely.
I mean, right? Don't you think that's kind of a self-respect thing? And it is something you have to work on. But again, when you do say no, if you're someone who isn't used to doing that, it's certainly a nice confidence boost for you to, earn greater self-respect for your, for within yourself.
You're right. And that's the thing. I mean, people, if you don't say no, people are going to constantly come to you. They're going to constantly take advantage of you until you stand up for yourself. So, but
Right.
that's so great. I wanted to touch on one aspect you talk about in the book, especially because of the time that we're living in right now with, the pandemic we're dealing with, the uncertainty, so many things. 2020 has been quite the year for so many people right now. But you talk about getting into mindfulness and amplifying gratitude. And I think that I try to encourage everyone who's going, while we're living in this time and that life is kind of giving us a pause button, a chance to reset some things, and really start to refocus and ask ourselves what's important for real, and how we're going to move forward. How are we going to come out on the other side of this? So when I looked at you talking about amplifying gratitude, I'm not saying that your book obviously was written before this, that's not what your book talks about, but I want to know what you talk about gratitude in your book, amplifying gratitude, because I think that people really could use this teaching in this present climate we're living in now.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And there's kind of a spectrum here, right? This goes back to earn confidence for one. And, I don't want to there's nothing to minimize or sugarcoat here. There are a lot of people who are having a hard time one way, shape, or form or another because of COVID. And that can certainly increase, right? So there's enough to deal with the real that's real. And even, if you don't have the answer for it, right, the same thing goes. We're survivors. We're going to find a way. That's going to happen. We're always going to get through things. It's just a matter of navigating. But, rooting yourself in gratitude, and the chapter on amplifying gratitude is later in the book. But in the early side, like when we're talking about perception, for example, and we have these moving parts, we talk about taking a snapshot of, breaking it down. Like, are our basic needs met? Are we healthy? Right? I mean, start there, those two things, and just isolate them so that you can experience that gratitude. Because after that, after those two things, importantly, you're healthy, your family's healthy, and or maybe dealing with things, but that's your foundation right there, and then everything else is kind of life, that you have to get through. And again, not to minimize it, but there are those things to be grateful for. Later in the book, when we're talking in that mindfulness area, amplifying gratitude is really around the law of attraction. And people may have heard of this, or however familiar they are with it. They may believe in it, they don't believe in it, but let's just say it's there. Same as gravity. And to me, where I summarize that is along the lines of what we expect tends to happen. That's a generality of the law of attraction that is fueled and amplified through gratitude. And so if you're somebody who is open to or believer of, or either way it's there, around the law of attraction, and you're a worrier, which is mainly around an expectation of things that you do not want to happen, that means it's possible that the worry itself could be causing the very things that you don't want to happen. And it's an energy thing, it's a mindfulness thing, but even if you put all that aside, still don't worry, right? Still root yourself in gratitude. That's where life enrichment is. That's where the joy happens. So the last thing I'll say about it is that with life always moving so fast, it's hard to stay grounded in it. And so you have to really find ways to create triggers for yourself throughout the day. Like chapter 11 is 11:11. That's an example of, it's 11:11. I'm just going to stop, just take a moment and experience something that I can be grateful for. And you can stop whatever you're doing for 30 seconds and take a few breaths, right? You can experience gratitude every morning when you put your feet on the floor. So whatever that is for you, you want to build those triggers in throughout the day so that you can continue to kind of be connected with that. And it's a personal experience, but I think when you start doing those things, you'll start kind of feeling more in the flow. You'll have things like coincidences start to happen more. So play around with that. See what it leads to.
Man, I'm sitting here like in awe, because I'm like, wow, that was so. I hope people got that, like, being deliberate about the gratitude. And even if when you said 11:11,
Right.
I think I know for myself for years, the time 9:11, I'll see it at least 3 or 4 times a week. I'll see 9:11 on the clock. Maybe it's the morning, maybe it's evening,
Right.
but and this has been going on for years for me. But when you said 11:11,
Right.
you're talking about the time. I'm like, man, what if you just set a time? Everyone just choose a time. Put the reminder in your phone every day when your alarm goes off.
That's what you're talking about. Put it in your phone.
Right.
You kind of force it. Set.
Right.
Like, you really can trigger yourself pretty easily that way.
Right.
And it's 24 hours in a day, and if you did it 5 times for 1 minute, that's doable.
Just being deliberate.
Right?
Just being deliberate about it. Right.
Yeah.
Just we let everything else come in and control our mind, control our time. To take 1 minute a day that you just set to say, hey, every day, this is what I'm going to be grateful about some stuff, man. That was good right there. If nothing, if nothing else from today's show, even with all the great stuff we discussed, I mean, I hope people take that and just say, let's be more grateful, show some gratitude. Anyway, Woo, that was good. Sorry.
Yeah, I mean, and it's gonna lift your spirits. All the things that go along with it. The positivity, the energy with it. But again, it was 3 times a day to 5 times a day. What's
Right.
interesting, Ryan, is how long that minute feels.
Right.
You stop and you just I'm just gonna do this for 60 seconds. Like, is 60 seconds up yet? Like, why is this taking so long? Right? Like, it's just yes. Take 60 seconds. It's okay. You can do that.
Wow. Well, listen, I want to ask before we go, because I want to talk to you about your nonprofit that you founded, and it's about
Sure.
internships. So I want you to kind of tell us about the nonprofit, because I've done nonprofit work as well. So I know one is it's hard work to do. Sometimes it's thankless work to do, but also I know it's always important to tell as many people about it as possible, because you never know who's out there who can support and help. So talk to us about your nonprofit organization, and then how that experiences might have even influenced the book, if so.
Yeah, for sure. Thank you so much for that. Well, there are a couple of things, and if it's okay, I want to mention a couple websites in this part of the conversation, because there's some free resources that I think people will find helpful, especially job seekers and military vets and college grads and things. So essentially, as I said before, without going too deep, because I could easily do that, I'm sure your show does not afford this time, is to work with employers for the most part, to even solo entrepreneurs, and show them how to do virtual internships. And I'm pretty much a solopreneur, and I'm working with 4 interns right now. I've worked with over 300 interns in my career. So a lot of what I do is based on that experience, and giving the opportunities to those individuals as well, and have it be that 2-way street where it's worth everybody's time to invest in one another in that way. So the website that I'm mentioning, there's 2. One is studentsteps.org, and the other is vetsteps.org. And there's a technique there that talks about how you use networking and informational interviews to springboard into different kinds of careers and experiences and opportunities. And so that's there for the taking. And then internshipinstitute.org is the website for the nonprofit. And there's resources there too. And if somebody's interested, a business owner, to work with us, mainly that's me, myself, and I, Ryan. Right now, but I'm happy to I'm happy to see what I can do to help. So that's it in a nutshell.
All right. And the reason I wanted you to talk about that, because I know you touched on it, how so many of us are solopreneurs, so many of us are small organizations, 2-3 people, and we really could benefit from interns. But it's hard to compete sometimes when you've got larger companies trying to grab them all. But I think that, so I encourage all of our passionpreneurs who are listening to take a look at that information and see how you can help, and as well as how you can get help, so that you may need to help grow your business as well. So, Matt, this has been a great conversation. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real fast that I think it's very easy for a solopreneur or very small companies to be like, we're just too small. We can, there's no way to do that. And they couldn't be more wrong. There's a certain way to do it, and a certain way to do it right. And, our nonprofits in the, our goal is to create those opportunities for everybody. So, anyone who's open to that, for sure. So thank you so much for having me, Ryan. This has been great.
Yeah, you've been great. And I want to make sure that you tell people how to get a copy of the book and how they can support you as well.
Yeah, well, hopefully they're not running out of paper with all these websites. So my website for the book is Z-isms.com. It's got the hyphen in it. There's a free sample of the front end of the book there. You can do the same thing on Amazon. The reviews on Amazon, I'm really proud of those. And but there's enough there. If you read it, then you'll know if you want to keep reading. It's, what more can I ask for? I'm hoping to get it in as many people's hands as possible for the purpose it was written.
Awesome. Well, Matt, thank you. You've been a great guest. I look forward to talking to you again soon and seeing what we can do and work together outside of the radio show, because I think we can really help each other in a lot of ways. So I want to thank you and wish you and your family the best. And we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Thank you, Ryan.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Passionpreneur Podcast. If you liked it, tell someone else about it. Go ahead and share it out. And also make sure you click that subscribe button and follow us and listen to every week's episode. I am your host, Ryan C. Greene. You can reach me at www.ryancgreene.com. Follow me on all social media at Raji Speaks. I look forward to working with you, talking to you soon. And just remember, If the best part about going to work is getting off of work, it's time to become a passionpreneur.